All right, guys. Episode 12, Heart of the Order. Welcome back. We're coming live. We're not live. Recording to you.
Tom Brady episode.
What? What did you just say?
Said the Tom Brady episode.
It's like
BB12 episode.
BB12.
it's like, what do you
Number
do? What are you
12.
doing? Like breaking NFL news on a baseball
Could
podcast?
get Aaron Rodgers, but he's obviously not.
So we're coming to you tonight. After
Nah, I'm just writing whatever number we're on.
I feel like this is going to be a very interesting episode because I feel like Dre is behind a little bit. I think he's lagging a little bit because that reaction just came.
I'm lagging like crazy.
That reaction just came like 20 seconds after I actually said something. So this is going to be a real interesting podcast.
Oh, no.
Yeah, have fun editing this one thing.
All right.
I don't know why this is either. I don't know why this is.
That's strange. Oh, we'll figure it out. We'll do our best. You know, that's how we do it here at Heart of the Order. It's all mumbled, jumbled, craziness. So earlier this week, the MLB owners came out and said, big piece
You
of
can
news.
always have 3 hitters.
What? Brooksy, are you behind too?
Yeah, this is going to be good.
I can't tell if he's frozen.
I can't tell.
I don't. I think so.
Oh, man. Why? Why
How are
is
we doing?
this?
Well, that one was even worse because I started talking and he answered something that was said like at least a minute ago.
Oh,
Okay. All right. All right. Let's try this again. All right. So earlier this week, the MLB owners came out and said that they had approved a plan between themselves to have the league return in the near future. Obviously, we talked about this a little bit on the last episode, but basically, there's a lot of talk about revenue. The financial aspects of the agreement were the big part of it. Obviously, player safety, coaches safety, staff safety, and pretty much from the get-go of the rumors coming out about the plan, the players union was like, it's a non-starter. A lot of it has to do with financials and things like that. And then you have Blake Snell coming out today. I think it was on a Twitch or a live stream of some video game, talking about how he's not playing if he's not going to get reimbursed or if he's not going to, get paid his full amount of money, even though they're playing a short season, things like that. Guys, I mean, what are your first thoughts on this whole situation? I mean, the entire country is waiting for baseball to come back, and here we are with an opportunity. But we kind of have two different sides here battling because they don't want to give up space on either side. I mean, what are your first reactions here?
Ray, I'll let you take the stand first.
I'm nervous to go first because of the fact that I'm so delayed, but here we go. So this is what I think. The whole thing with Blake Snell, I'm on his side. I see exactly where he's coming from. Like, number one, his big issue was he wants to make sure things are safe. And there's literally you can do whatever you can in terms of precautions. I think the biggest thing in order to make sure players are safe are to legitimately play in empty stadiums and then spread out the players as much as possible and just kind of work from there. Some people in the dugouts, whatever, like there's ways around it in that aspect to kind of do that. My issue that I think that Blake Snell has and the other players have are that it was reported that you're talking about a 50-50 revenue split.
Yeah.
I think the owners should be giving up way more money than the player.
Yeah.
And that is because these owners' pockets are super loud with cash, despite what anybody says about the Pirates not spending money within the team. Bob Nutting got it. And the Rays being poor and not being able to afford a new stadium, that franchise is valued at $1 billion. You're going to tell me that these owners are going to sit there and ask for half of the funds and I get that too, where they're coming from, because they're going to lose a lot of money in ticket sales. But in the end, I think when it comes down to these owners should be able to, they should have enough money to manage the situation and manage a financial loss, unlike these employees where asking them to take a pay cut when they're the ones out there risking their lives for the entertainment of us. I'm solely on the side of the players in this aspect. I want baseball back a lot, but not at the expense of these players' healths, because we have to remember whenever us, the casual fan, the media, whoever, we have to remember when we talk sports, these are humans first before they're athletes, and sometimes a lot of people forget that. So we have to make sure that their safety is utmost priority.
I think the one like reasoning I saw earlier this week, or I read, I can't remember who it was coming from, but it was from a player's aspect, and it was like, when the owners are bringing in money and they're profiting and benefiting from the success of the league, the players don't get a share in that. Like, the players don't benefit from the success of the league, and now they're asking for the players to share in like the losses of the league. I thought that kind of perspective kind of represented it the most, or kind of broke it down the most. I thought it was a good reasoning. I mean, Brooksy, earlier today you were saying that you kind of gone back and forth on this topic over the last week. And what are your kind of your thoughts?
I'm just gonna improv it because I like feel differently every time I see a tweet about it or I see an article. I mean, I think that this is an insane. Am I delayed, or can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yeah. You're like, your face is delayed,
hear me?
but your voice isn't delayed. Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah. You're like your video is
Okay.
delayed, but
So I've been just going back and forth on this, and I feel like this is such. So should I keep talking?
yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Keep talking. Keep going.
What's up with my internet? All right, so I feel like this is just not. I'm pessimistic that this isn't going to work out and there's not going to be baseball, because I like awkwardly see both sides of it. And for one, I agreed with like the essence of what Blake Snell said, but I feel like he said, like, the big headline of it was like, I'm not playing unless I get mine. And I think like his statement compared to what like Sean Doolittle had to say, Blake Snell's statement like definitely doesn't help the image right now, because nobody wants to, even though like the owners had this proposal leak just as like a PR play to make the players the bad guy.
Yeah.
To hear like a player come out and being like, hey, like, my salary's this is what I'm really going to be making, that just sort of comes off in the tone wise like not a great public relations move.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I am also on the player's side where you can't ask for a 50-50 split. And maybe things are just as crazy as it is now because this is unprecedented, or maybe it's not a 50-50 split, but maybe it is a revenue split. But like what you sort of need and what the owners aren't going to allow is some visibility into the books.
Yeah.
So like I was thinking today when I was cleaning up my car, I'm like, is there a way in which a third party mediator could sort of act as the intermediary between and sort of have visibility into the finances, because the players aren't gonna, or the owners aren't gonna let the players see into the books.
Yeah.
But like, is there just any other way in which they could come to a certain conclusion? Because at this point, it's a matter of the owners are like, well, we're either going to lose, and I'm just throwing out numbers here, we'll either lose $100 million if we don't play, or $150 million if we do play. Well, in that case, we're going to hold our ground and just show up next year. And that's just going to destroy everything from like a labor perspective with the CBA coming up.
There's
so I know I probably did not answer the question in any way there, and probably just added more questions.
There's just so many different angles of this argument.
You can go.
Sorry, there's just so many different angles of this argument on both sides. I mean, you can see it from like Blake Snell's perspective, where he's like, if I'm going to go out there and risk my life and risk getting coronavirus, which stays in his body for the rest of his career, and he has to deal with the repercussions of that, then he wants to get paid for going out there and risking his life. But then you have like other angles of it to where like guys like Mark Teixeira, who's past, he's out of the league, he's a broadcaster now. He's like, I would play baseball to give the country hope for free. Like I would take a pay cut to go out and play baseball and give the country some type of hope. Like you have those two angles, and I can completely see where Mark Teixeira is coming from, where these players are in a position to, kind of give the country hope in such a dire straits of time. But also you look at it from Blake Snell's perspective, where like they are risking their lives, like they're going out and possibly getting coronavirus. I mean, there's so many other people, first responders, nurses, cops, everyone is putting themselves out there in risk of getting it, and they're not getting paid extreme amounts of money to do so. Like they didn't get a raise or anything like that. But so you can kind of see it both sides. So I see where you're coming from, Brooksy, and the fact that you're going back and forth on it, because I feel it. I feel you there. It's a very, very, very interesting situation, and I'm hoping that somehow that they can find a way to kind of come to an agreement on it, because everyone wants to see baseball come back. But does it happen?
So, but like, what if the agreement? But what I found interesting was, so the whole issue with the Players Association was that, hey, we already made this agreement. Yeah. Why is there a second round of negotiations were happening here?
Yeah.
But what Tony Clark, the head of the Players Association, said was like, oh, a 50-50 revenue split is a non-starter.
Yeah.
So what is a starter? So it seems like the doors for negotiations are somewhat open.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, just even saying the word revenue sharing is that salary cap, and that you don't want to set that precedent where a salary cap is in play, because if next year there's still, like, no full stadiums, will the MLB be like, hey, or the owners be like, hey, you agreed to this last year, how about this year? But, like, what if the revenue, if they could just work within the revenue sharing, maybe it's like 65-35 or 60-40 in favor of the players. Do you see a scenario where maybe they would be in more favor of that, or are they just drawing the hard line at anything that comes to revenue sharing, saying no to it?
I mean,
no, I agree with you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm with Brookie. I'm with Brooksy that I think I can see the players kind of playing if a lot of the money is going to get favored into their pockets, because as the old saying goes, everyone has a price. And if that price is going to be where the players are making more money throughout this than the owners are lining their pockets, then I'm sure as hell going to assume that that's going to be fine with them, because they're taking more risk, but they're getting more of the reward. Mm-hmm. Whereas the owners are just, they're just sitting back and watching this happen. Like, they're completely fine off in their box, like watching their team with maybe their close family, whereas the players are on the field, with interacting with another team. Like, that's part of the game. That's what the game is. So I can see that. I just don't know where the number is going to be, because if you talk about 60-40, then you're talking about the owners giving up a lot, and that's them holding their ground, and that's them, losing a lot of their money. So I think ultimately safety is fine. I think the safety aspect is, I think you can do a lot with it in order to make sure that the players are safe. But ultimately what it's going to come down to, and I think the whole basis of the Blake Snell rant was about money. Yeah, and that's going to decide everything regarding this whole entire situation. And that sucks to say, but that's what the sport of baseball is. It comes down to dollars. There's teams that legitimately just don't sign free agents, the Pirates included. They don't go chase free agents because of money. They build from within, and Bob Nutting does this. This is what they do. But he's not the only one. Every single major league franchise, they operate this way. The problem is that where you have the Yankees, they can go out and buy free agents and still operate this way, and they can minimize their losses, whereas the Pirates choose not to do it that way. And now you're seeing everything, the whole economics of baseball starting to kind of come out into the light because of this whole situation. And now you're getting into a fight where you have the players who do want to play but want to see their money. You have the owners who don't want to, who want to minimize as much loss as possible because they still have to line their pockets. That's the rich getting richer, and that's the players. So I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know where that number is going to be, but it's going to be somewhere. It's going to be somewhere drastically towards the players as opposed to the owners.
So, I mean.
Yeah, and I just feel like – here, Greg, you can go.
Go ahead, Brooksy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, a lot of what Dre was just saying, it's almost going to be – when you're thinking of the conversations happening between the owners and between the players, it, like, comes down to within those two groups of the haves and the have-nots. So, like, what owners can survive off of their TV deals versus those that can't afford it in the same way. And with players, like, who is more not desperate for the money, but who, like, is more inclined to play for any sort of dollar value, if it's even, like, $900,000, or who's going to be like, oh, that money, like, nah, like, that's no big deal. Like, I feel like within each of those two camps, there's owners and players ranging from, like, oh, I need this money at all costs, versus, like, oh no, we'll be fine just throwing away this season. So I just feel like it's a whole bunch of moving parts, and they have like 2 weeks to come to any sort of conclusion if the season's going to kick off in July or not.
Yeah, I mean, they last time we talked, there was a prospective start date for spring training of like June 10th. It's May 14th today, so they got about 2 or 3 weeks if we're going to hit that deal, or they were going to hit that date. But I mean, there's a lot that goes into these discussions from what it seems like. I mean, it's not just it's majority finances at this point. It's from what it seems like, but you also have, the safety aspect of it. What are they going to do to kind of make sure the players are safe every day when they go out to play the game? You know what I mean? And that's if the players even agree to it. I mean, I think from what Doolittle said on his little Twitter thread the other day was that he was more worried about the safety aspect of it and the health part of things rather than the money. And then you have Blake Snell coming out that said, it's just money. I mean, Blake Snell was supposed to make like what, $30 million this year or something like that. And
he signed a contract that's like has a total value, I think, $51 million. But I also saw that they were going to frequently test these players. I don't know how often frequent is. I would say maybe 3 to 5 times a week. It could be even as high as daily. It might even be twice a day. Who knows? Like morning and night. But like at the same time, I think that the precautions of making sure that the players are safe, I think that that's all there. So, and Blake Snell, he's going to be fine. He's set to make $7 million this year. Last year he made $1 million. It's the other players that should be worried, the ones that are, rookies and on rookie salaries. Like those are the ones, because they're the ones that have to provide for their families, They're the ones where money is sort of an issue, where they're playing for that next contract. Whereas a guy like Blake Snell just got paid, So, that's another thing that I guess I'm concerned about. And I know you talk about how Doolittle on this rant. Passan was on the Pat McAfee show, and he had a great rant today too about it. So I advise everybody watch that. He really dug into Blake Snell, though. I will say that, talking about how his math is super off and his percentage.
It was.
Poor guy, man, sounds stupid, but then brought up the overall points. Like, why would you say it's about money? Like, everyone knows it's about money, just don't say it.
Yeah, because you're not going to get – because I feel like a lot of times in owner-player dynamics, players are made out to be the bad guy, but I feel like it's happened so many times where people, at least in our shoes, we're taking the sides of the players. But, like, when I hear Blake Snell talking, like, directly about the money like that, I'm just like, okay, like, I don't know who to really cheer for now. Like, it's just – I don't know.
Yeah, and part of me is like, I'm glad he was authentic and real, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
Just tell what it is. Why bullshit it. You know, if it's about money, just say it is. And in the end, it's about money. And I don't blame him for saying that. I'd blame him for saying that if this wasn't baseball. If he was in another sport, if it was hockey, football, you know, even basketball, if you want to talk about money, you know, that's fine. But the one sport where money legitimately is, and we face this as Pirate fans, where money is such a big factor in anything, you know, how franchises are run, I don't mind him just flat out saying, no, this is about money. I don't mind that at all, because there's one thing that's visible regarding the players' salaries. We're able to see that. But we're not able to find out is, you know, what do the owners have? You know, you've seen so much speculation on what ownership has. You know that essentially 5 franchises have an endless cash flow.
Yeah.
The Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, Dodgers, Mets are pretty up there. I don't know if they're top 5, but bottom line is, like, you know, every other franchise is very skewed. Like, you don't know what the St. Louis Cardinals have in terms of their money. Everyone says Bob Nutting's a billionaire, 10th richest owner in baseball. But, like, you could maybe how do you find that information? You know, I can Google Blake Snell's contract, find it in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be able to find what Bob Nutting's total value is in terms of Major League Baseball, what he's not. Like, there's so many hurdles around that. So him talking about money, show him the books. And that's another big thing that they're talking about. The owners won't share their books during the situation, which kind of, you know, again, it's a lot of distrust in that. So I think I want baseball, but I'm with you, Brooks, when you said that baseball might not be played this year. It just might not. Kind of sucks.
Yeah, and I definitely do, going off of what you were saying, I definitely appreciate that Blake Snell was authentic, but it was just something about, like, right now, this is an unprecedented time in terms of people losing jobs, losing money, and who knows how long, like, people are going to be impacted by this. So, like, it doesn't, like, sit well with me when I hear a player speaking in that way, and it sort of just feels like there's a disconnect between the players and the common person. Like, going forward on something else that I saw was that in this contract, they're also like, oh, players may want more closer geographic divisions moving forward because people don't understand how tough travel is for a player. And it's just sort of, I don't know. It's just like, it's not falling. Typically players get sympathy when it comes to players v. owners, but for some reason now it's just, I'm not giving them any sympathy.
That's kind of the way, like, that's kind of what I was going to ask, was, like, I mean, obviously, like, we appreciate Blake Snell being kind of, like, upfront about things and his feelings and things like that. But, like, is at this time, during this coronavirus, everything going on, when millions of people are losing their jobs and things like that, is that the right approach to take, to be, you know, complaining about money at this point in time?
It is. Not to interrupt you, but I want to quote something that Jeff Passan said. I think it is the right approach, because Jeff Passan said, we all know he's the best insider of baseball in the business. He said a lot of players feel the same way Blake Snell does, and he would bet a lot of money on it.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line is that Blake Snell said it, where the other ones aren't coming out.
That's what I guess that's what I'm saying is the way he came out and said it. I mean, it's in my opinion, he was kind of arrogant about the whole situation, which I understand. But, like, at the same time, in this space, with everything going on right now, he's kind of coming off as kind of like a dick, in my opinion, when there's so much shit going on in the rest of the country and the rest of the world. Like, to be complaining about money, like, obviously, like, say that in that same interview, Passan was like, you know, say that in the quiet. Like, it doesn't need to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
You can be unhappy about it, but, like, you know, make it about something else, like the health about it or something.
Don't go on a rant about the math of the statistics, and then he's like, and then I'm taxed. So how much am I really making? Mm-hmm. Hey, buddy, like, we all get taxed.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, for me, it's sort of, and maybe, like, I go back and forth. One hand, authentic, great. Like, tell us how you really feel. I'm glad he did that. On another hand, I'm like, from a PR perspective, the owners put you in a crappy position. Having this leak, or, like, having this come out, so now it's like, oh, if there's no baseball, the players are the bad guys. Yeah. And Blake Snell, I feel like, just fed right into that. where it's not like, I think is his name Sean Doolittle, or is it a different first name?
Yeah.
I think like his perspective on like first and foremost, like it is health, and like even if you feel differently, like at least just emphasize that point a little bit more and have the money come after.
Yeah,
I just feel like where the sport is now, it's just very out of touch.
Yeah, it does a terrible job at sort of keeping the relations between players and ownership, that keeping that connection intact. It's really, really bad in that aspect.
Yeah, it's one thing if there's no season because of health and the feasibility of that. It's another thing if
they can't come
it's
to an agreement
due to
on-
money.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just like how the story will be said, and baseball is already sort of, that would be a real bummer because they're missing out on a pretty big opportunity to capitalize on a country of a captive audience.
I mean,
And again,
that would be my next
Florida.
question is how horrible would it be if, the league wasn't able to come back just because of the financial aspect of it? Like in everything.
It'd be awful.
Yeah.
It'd be terrible. It'd be absolutely pathetic. And it would be, in my opinion, that would be the biggest black eye in baseball in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That would be worse
Agreed.
than steroids. That would be worse than Pete Rose gambling. That would be worse than anything, because of the fact that you, as a league, and this comes down straight from the top, from Rob Manfred, all the way to the owners, that branches out, trickles down to the freaking bullpen catcher. If you cannot come together and figure out financially how the hell you're going to put on a show for a nation that legitimately is starving for sports right now, where your league is looking for a leg up on the NFL and Major League Baseball, and you have hockey blowing through the water, but if you want to get up there in terms of your marketing and reach out to any potential fan base demographic, you have an opportunity to do that. And if you cannot capitalize on that because of dollars and cents in a capless league, then you guys got a lot more problems than just health and whatever else is out there, because the owners got the money, the players want the money. It's Blake Snell said it, and again, it's just about him saying it, being public with it, which is sort of what Brooksy's toting the line, and Mac too, I don't know, but if it comes down to that, it's just absolutely awful.
Yeah.
It's a bad look.
If anything in this, like, because I'm definitely not pro owner, but like the more I think about certain things, like when I see people like having these debates, are sort of like, oh, like owners never take or never have to absorb risk.
Mm-hmm.
But, and like credit to the MLB Players Union, they did a great job in getting fully guaranteed contracts. To a certain degree, that's an amount of risk. And on the other hand, like just, it's half devil's advocate, half how I actually feel. Like when Scott Boras came out and was like, nope, players should be paid what they're paid. But Scott Boras, when he's selling Garrett Cole to the Yankees, a big selling point in that is, think of how many fans are going to come in your stadium and see Garrett Cole pitch, and think of this and that. Like it comes to a certain point where this is just such a freak incident.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, this won't happen again, knock on wood, but let's approach it as such and come to a conclusion where something can at least have baseball be played. And if it misses out on that, it's going to turn away a lot of people who are already going in that direction.
I mean, so when it comes down to it, what is your guys' opinion? Does baseball get played this year, whether it's a shortened season or a super short season? Does baseball get played this season?
No.
It's May 14th. If there's nothing in place by June where there's a concrete date to come back, then there's not going to be baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point you're approaching the halfway point, and you're starting to dig into the NFL season, where that'll take precedence no matter what. So if there's nothing in place by June, then there's not going to be baseball.
Yeah, no baseball.
Be
And
disappointing.
there's already no baseball in 2021 for the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's already
disappointing. One thing to think about here is we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but the Florida-Arizona plan. Florida has opened up for professional sports. Arizona has opened up for professional sports. You never know. It could happen. We'll see. They
If it
still got
happens, I won't hate it. Just relocate everybody to Florida and Tampa.
Yep.
Don't care. Represent a specific city. Do a fantasy draft. Have some fun with it.
Yeah, do something. I mean, could you see it to a point to where the league goes, like if the players union went on like a strike, could you see like a scab situation to where like players cross the line to play in the league, so the league has some type of product to present this year? Like, could you see something like that? I don't even know if that's possible.
Yeah.
But, like, could you see something like that?
I feel like the MLB union is so much tighter
Mm-hmm.
because of a lot of like work that they've done to get like the guaranteed contracts and everything else in the CBA, where I feel like in that case, yeah, I can't see
Like, I don't even know if
that happening.
I'm just thinking of like Shane Falco and the replacements.
Yeah. Hey,
I don't.
Like that's what comes to my mind.
I can't see it. I can't. If Michael Jordan wasn't going to do it in 94, 95,
Yeah.
Chris Bryant or, I don't know, Blake Snell, they're not going to do it either. It's just not going to happen. I can't see it. I can see maybe minor league players maybe trying to say, hey.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if like a bunch of these like big name guys, don't want to play? Like, there's enough people in each organization where each organization could find in some way like 40 players to fill a major league roster for 80.
I feel like that would almost.
We're talking about
I would worry.
Players,
Huh?
I would guarantee they play in a heartbeat.
Like minor league players?
That I would guarantee that because that could legitimately be their only shot to actually make it to the major leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And their situation is so bad when it comes to how they're treated and everything. Like a single A player makes maybe $10K, whereas if you make the major leagues, you get lifetime insurance. That's one of the big selling points right there. Shout out to the collective bargaining agreement to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then they'll all play for league minimum, and the owners, they don't have to pay all their big guy contracts. They can pay minimum contracts. They'd be all for this.
Cancel the MLB season.
All about
push back the draft and instead have an extended College World Series. Those kids have something to play for. They're playing for draft picks, draft stock. That's just the stage I'm at in my grieving right now.
I like that idea. Just any type of live sports with baseball is okay on my part. Where I don't have to stay up until like 3 a.m. to watch a baseball game. I'd be speaking of the MLB draft, another topic. I'm great at segues, Dre. I hit it on the head every time.
You knock it out of the park.
Here you go.
So speaking of the MLB draft, it's coming up in June, right? June. It is limited from the former 50 rounds, right, to 5.
Yes.
How much is this going to affect the future of baseball?
I actually
JUCO is going to be juiced.
Who? I'm sorry, I missed that, Brooksy.
Junior college, JUCO.
Oh yeah, JUCO is going to be juiced. I've seen both sides of this. Number one, I've seen that 1,000 players aren't going to get drafted, and they're completely okay with that whole entire process just disappearing. That's one less thing they got to worry about, and that's a big step. Like if you're drafted, you have to then decide: do you go pro or do you go to the major leagues, or do you go pro or do you go to college? That's if you're in high school, and then when you're in college and getting drafted, do you sign that contract? Do you stay? It's a whole weight lift off their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. The other part of it, the much more interesting part, is how in the hell do you determine 5 guys are gonna possibly change your franchise?
Right. That's the crazy part. You have you have so many people that you could draft, and now outside of the 5 rounds, I think each team has like what $200,000 to like sign free agents after the 5 rounds, and so you're thinking, and it's just like what it's like. So these teams could get so many more players in the draft with the deep rounds, and now they're kind of limited in the money wise and picks wise. So it's like those guys that were kind of like on the fringe of possibly getting drafted. Like I talked to a guy like a week ago for a story, and he was expecting to kind of get drafted this year, but now he's hoping for a free agent deal, and if a free agent deal doesn't happen, he's going to go back to college. Like, so it's kind of leaving the future of some players kind of just like up in the air, and it's crazy to see.
Yeah, it's just you're gonna see the messiness of farm systems for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
Like, speaking of just like long-term impacts on this is something that you'll just see as like a blip that will just continue on for years to come. And it's just like, so I think they now signing free agents is like what the contract for it's like $20,000 now.
Yeah, I think so.
That's nuts.
I think they have a pool of like each team has a pool of like $200,000 that they can use to sign free agents after the draft. I think is what I saw. I could be wrong on that though, so don't quote me.
Part of me, and maybe like this is like takes you into my mind of where I'm going back and forth between pessimism and optimism. Part of me worries in the long term, because I know Manfred's looking to maybe do some downsizing in minor league baseball. I'm not saying that it would be 5-round drafts, but I don't know. Like, could this be like the start of weaning off of the MLB draft and just like decreasing personnel and like farm systems? I mean, that's just where my mind goes.
That door is definitely open now because of the fact that, again, I mean, you already see it happen with the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that was anything that was entirely or remotely possible. That the draft was going to be completely just cut from 50 rounds to 5, just like that because of Corona.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even think about it. Wasn't even on my radar. And now it's here. So ultimately, I do believe that the next step would be to cut out some minor league levels.
Mm-hmm.
And that, again, puts these franchises in a bind. And that's kind of insane if you think about it, that's what Manfred is going to try and do in order to, ensure the survival of the sport financially.
I mean,
and that's the key word there. All of that is all about financials.
You would think that having the 5 rounds this year would kind of kill the depth of each team's like minor league system, because they have these guys coming in and out of the leagues every year. So now they're kind of you would think it would kill the depth of each team, wouldn't it? In a way.
I would think. I don't think it kills the depth.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kills the chance to try and find the best players for your franchise for the future. Like, because there's so many levels and there's so many levels of minor league baseball.
Yeah.
But like with there being 50 players and how many of those players you sign based off of how many they draft, like, any team could sign anywhere close to 20 to 35 players and just place them in the levels and, take your shots of who's going to be good, who's not going to be good. Now you only have 5 rounds to kind of determine that. So you have to make sure that your scouting department is absolutely pristine, because when I talked to Greg Balak about this today, when it comes to the draft, me and him, we were in agreement last year, in any year, I guess before now, that with the Major League Baseball draft, you always, and no matter what, does not matter what you need in your farm system, you take the best player available and you don't think twice.
Yeah.
Because that is the best way to build yourself a farm system. That's the best way to build yourself assets in order to make trades to help your major league club. That's the best way to find the next star to take your franchise to the next level. You can't do that anymore because you only have 5 rounds. Now you have to make sure you actually do fill positions in need. You have to take the best player available at that position. It's sort of shifting, in my opinion, from the two, or I shouldn't say from, because it's shifting to the mentality that you have whenever you draft for an NFL franchise. So that's the way these baseball teams have to think now, and I think that's kind of crazy.
Definitely. We're gonna have to bring Malik on after the draft happens. The draft expert, Greg Malik himself. He used to be a part of the order. So we'll have to do that in the future. I'm gonna keep that
next. I love Greg Malik, but he's next level psycho if he studies the draft. How many rounds it is?
Well, his homework just became a lot less then.
Yeah, he's one of the only people that I know that like does every single round for the draft.
Yeah, I thought I knew a little something about the draft. He's like next level, and yeah, I actually love that he loves that draft more than the NFL draft, which is crazy.
Yeah,
I love that about him. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, do you remember our episode last year when we talked about the draft? It was like an hour and a half long, I think, because we went so in depth with the draft.
Yeah, it was
like mind blown because of everything he knew.
It's impressive. It really
is. It is. All right, guys. Well, that is all the time we have for tonight. It was another good conversation. Hopefully, by next week, maybe, we have baseball back. We'll see.
Or have better news than what we have now.
Yeah, we're going to go back. I'm assuming Brooksy will go back and forth a couple more times on pessimistic, optimistic. We'll see. Brooksy, I hope you're all right. I hope that White Claw helps with your battle inside your head going on right now.
There'll be another few this evening as I sit in the corner of my room and just look up and think of scenarios. As I become more and more of an owner apologist. I hate what it's turned me into.
Right?
Stupid pandemic, man. It's affecting us all.
I know, it's
I
crazy.
want the real Brooksy back.
I just go full owner. Okay, Bob Nutting, he knows what he's doing.
You're gonna come back to the next episode with like a shirt and tie and like glasses on, like all owner. You're like, guys, I just came back from the meeting.
I'm like, all right, we're cutting salary. One draft pick this year. Need to save some money.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us for another episode. We'll see you next week.